Good Monday afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another video and my library. So we have one more day after today in April. So it is appropriate to give you guys my May TBR. But before I get into that, I'm going to show you guys a mini April book haul. So I decided to combine that into this video. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first, and then we'll get into what I want to read possibly in May, because I have a lot there. So I have 5 books here, all from Amazon. Let's see what I got in April. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the books that I got. So the first book I want to show off is a book that I actually finished last night. Okay, let's try this again. So that book that I finished last night was Tribesmen by Adam Caesar. And this was an homage to like Cannibal Holocaust and those video nasties from the 80s. So I'll have more thoughts on this when I do my wrap up tomorrow. So that was the first book I bought. Next, Exponential by Adam Caesar. And this is a Lovecraftian creature feature, if I'm not mistaken. And this takes place on the outskirts of Las Vegas. And it's all a bunch of monsters unleashed. So this one is a little bit over 200 pages, but sounded like a pretty good one. That was Exponential. The last Adam Caesar I got was the first one you expect. And this is about a dude who I believe films snuff films in his basement. So very, very short novella. And I think this is one of his first ones. So sounded interesting. Next one I want to show off is one that I am very excited to have. 7 Rabbits by Timothy King. And this is an indie author that is part of a Facebook group that I'm on called Books of Horror. And I've seen a lot of people read this one. But this is kind of like an inspiration for Your Next meets The Strangers. So it's basically like a revenge horror novel with those aspects. So really excited to get into this very soon. 7 Rabbits. And not to mention, he actually friended me on Facebook, so there we go. And that final book that I got in April, Beast of Burden by Judith Sonnet. And I know the reputation behind this author. She is definitely one of the leading queens of splatterpunk and extreme horror. So this is kind of like a coming of age story that deals with like a metal band. And then they come across this cave and horrific stuff starts to happen. So really excited to get in this one. And you might actually see this in this month's TBR. This one is very, very short. It's only like 137 pages, so I'll definitely add that into my TBR. So those are the 5 books I got in April. And now on to the nitty gritty. The video that you want to see, that I'm very intimidated by. This is going to be my May TBR. So, if you've seen my TBRs since January, you know I read from 3 different mediums: physical, audiobook, and Kindle. So these are just a few books that I want to conquer in May. So let's start off with the physical, shall we? And I already showed you one of them. So the other 2, well, maybe one of them. Y'all are going to hate me for this, but I just didn't get to them. Mystic River by Dennis Lehane. I'm tired of talking about this book, so I might finally read this thing. So I'm hoping it will be this month. So it's just about a group of friends who try to figure out who killed one of the main person's daughter. So that's that. And my Stephen King pick would be Hearts in Atlantis. Yeah. Didn't have time to get to that in April. So we'll see what happens, I guess. But this is just a collection of 5 novellas, and they coincide with like the Vietnam War. So those are my 3, possibly 2 physical books that I want to read in May. And on to my audiobook selections. I decided to pick 5, possibly. So the first one I want to get through and maybe do a book versus movie episode. I decided to go with First Blood by David Morrell, and this is the inspiration behind First Blood, 1982, and this is the introduction of John Rambo. And John Rambo is a disgruntled Vietnam vet who comes home, but he is pursued by a corrupt police force. So he's on a path of vengeance and death. So definitely can't wait to read this one. It's definitely going to break up the monotony of horror. Because God knows I have some on this list. What are you going to do? But that's the first one I want to listen to. This next one is really going to surprise you guys. So I decided to finally dive into I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. And I want to read this book because I watched Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, and that was all about the abuse at Nickelodeon. So this is just one memoir that I heard is very, very heartbreaking and hilarious at the same time. But Jeanette McCurdy played on iCarly and Sam and Cat, 2 shows that I never really watched. But this is all about like her abuse, and it's just very dark subject matter. I mean, the cover alone, you're like thinking, yeah. So that's one. or that's the second one I want to get through on Audible. The next one is The Sanatorium by Sarah Peirce. And I think this is kind of like a thriller, I believe. It's got like a snowy setting, and that's all I know about it. But I think it would be a pretty fun one. Next one is The Drowning Woman by Robin Harding. This was in my April TBR, but I decided to switch it out with another audiobook. But this is also a thriller that is about like this homeless woman who just witnesses a woman jumping off of a bridge. And I think the woman who jumped from the bridge haunts this lady. So it kind of sounds like a horror thriller. And the final one, If There Is Time, and I have to get a credit for it. This is called The Boyfriend by D.E. McCluskey. And this is an extreme horror that I guess deals with like a very manipulative guy who just like is in this relationship, I guess. Don't really know much about it, but it is part of the Books of Horror Indie Brawl. And so is Beast of Burden, so that would be a couple that I knocked out. So that's my Audible section. Last section is my Kindle reads. And I had no idea what I wanted to read, but I decided on 4, if it's possible. So that first one I definitely do want to read is The Warrior Retreat by John Lynch. And this is about a retreat that deals with like suicidal war veterans, and this guy is trying to make them better for their mental health. So this is labeled as extreme horror, and I'm sure it has some very intense subject matter. And I do believe that the author is actually a Marine veteran, so I definitely wanted to check this one out. The next one is How Much To? And this is also in the Books of Horror Indie Brawl. This is by Matt Shaw. And this is just about like a sadistic game that has to be played for the people to survive. So kind of like a Truth or Dare Extreme Horror edition. And I'm hit or miss with Matt Shaw. He hasn't really like done it for me, but maybe this one will be a decent one. So that's another one. The next one is The Social Media Murders by John Athen. And this is another slasher by him. And this is kind of like a high school slasher that deals with like cyber bullying. So it really sounds messed up. And what I've read from John Athen so far, yeah. So I'm expecting this to be really messed up. And that final one, If There Is Time, is also part of the indie horror book brawl. This is Where We Talk Things Out by Caitlin Marceau. And this is just about like a mother-daughter relationship on the brink of destruction. Pretty much all I know about it, and I think it's like one of the shorter Kindle books that I picked. So, with all that rambling, those are my hopeful books to read in May. And more friends that I got in April. So, hopefully I'll get to all these. It's quite a bit, but I'm going to try my best. Now, as for physical reads, I have no idea what I want to read. So, it might actually be Mystic River. Yeah. So I think that's going to be my next physical read. Sorry, Hearts in Atlantis, but I don't know if I am. Don't know if I'm going to conquer a 700-page novel in a month. But Mystic River has been part of my 24 and 24 challenge, and I definitely do want to get to it. So, those are my hopefuls to read in May. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And tomorrow I'm going to do my wrap-up videos. So, stay tuned for those, and I'll see you tomorrow. Adios. Peace.